You know that feeling, don't you? Your phone lights up with another group chat notification, another party invite, and instead of feeling excited, you just feel tired. For a long time, we've been told that feeling is wrong. But what if it's not? Turns out there's some really fascinating science behind why some of us are just wired to prefer a smaller, quieter social life.
I mean, really, does the idea of spending hours making small talk sound more exhausting than exciting? If you've ever secretly wished for a plan to get canceled so you could just stay home, well, this is for you. We're going to dig into why that feeling is totally valid and actually pretty profound.
All right, so first things first, we have to talk about what I call the myth of more. Our culture has this unwritten rule book, right? It says a busy social life, tons of friends, always being on. That's the key to happiness. But what if that whole rule book is based on a huge misunderstanding?
And this really lays it all out. On one side, you have what we're always told. More friends means more happiness, you gotta be social all the time. But then you look at what the science is actually telling us, and it's a completely different story. It's about the quality of your friendships, not the sheer number. And get this, choosing to be alone can actually be a major source of strength.
This brings us to probably the most important distinction in this whole conversation. We throw around the words loneliness and solitude like they're the same thing, but psychologically, they are polar opposites. Getting this difference is a total game changer.
Let's be really clear about this. Loneliness is pain. It's a distressing, sometimes gut-wrenching feeling that the connection you need just isn't there. It's an involuntary state of lack.
And then there's chosen solitude. This is completely different. This is when you choose to be alone because it feels good. It's peaceful, it's restorative, it's fulfilling. It's not about a lack of people to hang out with. It's about deliberately choosing your own company.
So if we break it down, the difference becomes crystal clear. Research from the University of Chicago really highlights this. Loneliness is painful, it's involuntary, and it's based on a perceived lack of connection. But solitude? That's peaceful, it's voluntary, and your sense of contentment comes from within, not from others. You see the key here? You can be in a room full of people and feel incredibly lonely, or be all by yourself and feel completely at peace.
So who are these people who actually prefer the quiet? Well, far from being antisocial or flawed, a preference for solitude is often a sign of a very well-developed inner world. Let's take a look at the psychological profile.
It turns out, people who are comfortable being alone often have some serious psychological strengths. They tend to have high self-awareness. They just know themselves better. They're emotionally independent, and they're driven by their own values, not by what other people think. They have what psychologists call self-concept clarity, a really stable sense of who they are. And they're great at managing their own emotions.
And I think this quote just nails it. When your own mind is an interesting and fulfilling place to be, the desperate need for likes and comments and constant approval from the outside world, it just starts to fade away. Your self-worth isn't on the line with every social interaction.
So this isn't just about feeling okay with being alone. Actively choosing a smaller social world can actually have some incredible, almost superpower-like benefits. It can be a genuine strategy for living a richer, more creative life. There are two huge benefits that really stand out. First, you get deeper relationships. Think about it. When you're not spreading your social energy thin across dozens of people, you can invest it all in the few connections that really, truly matter. And second, you unlock creativity. Solitude gives your brain the quiet space it needs for those aha moments to actually happen.
And hey, this isn't some new age idea. We're talking about Albert Einstein here. He knew that when you step away from the constant noise and social demands, your brain is finally free to wander, to connect the dots in new ways, and to be truly creative.
And today, neuroscience actually has a name for what Einstein was talking about. It's called divergent thinking mode. It's that state where your brain just explores, makes weird connections, and comes up with original ideas, totally free from the pressure to conform to a group. So people with few friends aren't missing out on ideas, they're creating the perfect conditions for them.
Okay, but we have to be really careful here. It is absolutely crucial to have a balanced view. Celebrating chosen solitude is one thing, but we can't ignore the very real dangers of unwanted isolation. There is a line, and we need to know where it is.
So when does it cross that line? When does being alone stop being a strength and start becoming an actual danger to your health? The answer has nothing to do with how many friends you have. It's all about a feeling.
The real danger zone is something called chronic perceived isolation. And that word, perceived, is everything. It's that deep, persistent feeling that you're disconnected, even if you're literally in a room full of people. The red flag to watch for in yourself is this: does being alone still feel restorative, or has it started to feel anxious, empty, and distressing? That shift is your signal to pay attention.
And this is not something to take lightly. The National Institute on Aging has documented the health risks, and they are serious. We're talking about impaired attention, long-term cognitive decline, and even an increased risk of heart problems. This is why knowing the difference between healthy solitude and chronic loneliness is so important.
So, after all of that, where does that leave us? How do we figure this all out for ourselves? The goal is to completely stop playing the numbers game. Stop counting friends, stop counting invitations, and start focusing on something way more personal.
If it's not about how many people you know or how many parties you go to, then what on earth is the real measure of a healthy, happy social life?
The answer, the one word that matters more than any other, is alignment. A healthy social life is simply one that is in alignment with who you are, your personality, your energy, and your true needs. It's about making sure your outer world matches your inner world.
I absolutely love this metaphor of a social diet. It's perfect, right? Some people need a diet rich in daily interaction, multiple friend groups, constant energy. But other people thrive on a diet with lots of alone time, just one or two really deep connections, and plenty of time to recharge. One isn't better than the other, they're just different.
So let's end with the only question that actually matters. Forget what you think your social life should look like. Forget what everyone else is doing, and just ask yourself this. Honestly, does your social life right now energize you, or does it drain you? Your answer to that question is your roadmap. It's your permission to build a social life that truly fits you.